Ugh, these clowns and hanging meat and carrying on.
And I'm like, come on through, Cookie. I want to put my soapbox. That's basically it. Let's talk about drag and all its forms. What, Cookie?
Hey guys, thanks so much for clicking on the video. This is my review for Season 7, Episode 2. This is American Horror Story Cult. Like I said, clowns and now hanging meat and people. Child, okay, whatever. Alright. So, we start right off where we left off with the clown with the penis nose things in the bed with Allie. That scared her to death, okay? And then she has all that going on. And then Ivy comes running upstairs. They get a knife. They're walking around, looking all over the room for where this clown could be. No clown, naturally. Then they get ready to have sex. I'm like, now I don't know about anybody else, but when there's nothing that would take me to a sexual place after I done had the hell scared out of me by some dingling nose clown. Now all of a sudden I'm going to have some sex. No, I'm really not. But they getting ready to go at it, and then Oz, he done had a nightmare, and he done jumped up, and he's hollering for them. So they go and to come to get him, and he basically shunned Allie for Ivy. And Allie was like, again, so this is just more that's going to her psyche. She's losing touch with things, and then Oz is now actually siding. He's pretty much leaning more toward Ivy and looking more toward Allie like, bitch, you all there, bitch? You okay? So that whole thing's going on. Next, we see Kai's plan with that videotaping of him antagonizing those Mexican Americans. It worked perfectly. Now he's on the news talking about he's going to run for city council. He basically wants Mr. Chang's position. I said, ain't that a mess? And there was a man and a woman that were, you know how you see people that they've interviewed and they were in the background? It's a man and a woman. Well, these people, Allie ended up noticing that they are moving into the Chang's house. I said, you know what? Okay, so I'm good with where we're going story-wise, but Ryan Murphy, it's too many coincidences for it to seem like a coincidence. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, well, I understand we're driving her crazy and all of this, because it's very blatant that this is actually being done. You know, all of this is purpose. All of this is all wrapped up together, but it's too many things to where it ain't just sounding like she crazy. It's just too much. It just looked like a little too much going on. And one thing I didn't mention last week, Winter and Kai are brother and sister. Mess. And I wouldn't be surprised if they done did some bumping back in the day. They ain't said nothing about it yet. But I don't. Yeah, their relationship seemed like a little more than brother and sister, but whatever. So Allie had actually went over and was kind of looking through the window and stuff, and she's like, interesting. Like the decor stuff they had mannequins and all these different things. It was kind of strange. And I'm gonna get to that in a minute. Next, we see that Winter is now, she's programming Ozzy, which is what she had been doing. She then went and taught him that little finger shit. So they got that going on. I'm like, And they come home the one day and they're like, well, where's Oz? She's like, oh, he's over at the neighbor's house. And there was all these, Allie seen them with all these containers. And she was like, all containers. And then the guy looked like he had on a hazmat suit. But anyway, when they run over, they just ran over next door. She's like, you left him with the neighbor by himself? We don't know them. Chelsea, they run over there. Here, the guy actually raises bees, honeybees. So that's a lot of all that mess. So, of course, she ran into some holes when she went over there. He had like honeycomb and it about sent her into a tizzy. But in the midst of that, they started they met the neighbors, and the neighbors started talking. And the neighbors are very talkative, very outspoken, very much conspiracy theorists, to the point where I was like, child, they are alarming. They're weird. They're weird. I wouldn't be, slap boxing and happy with them across the street from me because they a little too off, a little too open. They talking about how they got the house, how they had bad credit and bankruptcy and all of this. And when they seen on TV how the Chains got murdered, they knew that they wasn't going to be able to sell the house. So they called the owners to try to get the house because they knew they would be trying to unload the house. I was like, who shares all that with people that they don't know? Then they're like, oh, y'all are lesbians. Oh, yeah, that's the way to bring up the property value. Get a couple of lesbians. Y'all are nice. Y'all keep up the neighborhood. And I'm sure one of y'all is real handy. All these stereotypes. I was like, and I'm looking at the guy, and he's talking one thing. Both of them, they're talking one thing, but their faces are saying another. They're saying all these things like, oh, it's so cool to be living across the street from some lesbians. But then when you catch them in the interim, their faces is like, living across the street from some snackers. It was very that. I said, I don't trust them. I don't trust them at all. Then when they go, oh, just come on in, because this son is bothering me, the woman. They get in there, get talking to her. And again, she goes on with this conspiracy theory. She said, I had cancer, skin cancer. We're all going to have skin cancer. She was going on. That's so crazy, bitch. So they're going on and on and on with this mess. Then they go on and they say, oh, yeah, he's gay. He's gay. And they're like, wait a minute, he's gay? She's like, oh, yeah, we've been besties forever. And we agreed that if we turned 35 and I hadn't gotten with somebody and she hadn't gotten with somebody, we would marry each other. And that's what we did. And he gets 1 weekend a month that he gets to go off and do whatever he wants, as long as he takes his Truvada and this, that, and other. I said, absolute weirdos. And it was a lot. It was a lot. I was just looking at them. Then there was still blood on the floor, still blood on the door, dried up on the door. And they're like, oh, we don't scare easy. This, that thing, and the other. Because Allie was like, aren't you afraid? Or aren't you? I was like, child, a mess. A mess. So anyway, after that, we start to see where Ivy's actually working evenings and stuff. So there's this particular evening. Here we go. Ozzy got scared. They were both home. The store was closed. Oh, let me tell you about this there was a scene at first. Earlier that day, the head chef and one of the workers, the worker is a Mexican-American, Pedro. His name is Pedro. And he actually is not an illegal immigrant. He actually was a legal immigrant. You found out later. But he and the head chef got into a little spat. And the chef jumped all up in his face with this spoon. And he had a knife in his hand. And they were going back and forth. And it was really racially charged in this kind of little thing. So the chef said to Allie, because Allie was back there, said, you need to fire him. And the chef was talking real bad, to folks. And he said, she said, I'm not going to fire an immigrant in the middle of this type of climate. There's no way. We're going to work it out. We're all family here and everything's going to be fine. Well, later on that night, the alarm tripped. Oz had just had a little thing where he was like, I'm scared to sleep in my bed. He goes, they're like, just get to bed with us. Old Ivy gets a message on her phone talking about the alarm had tripped down at the store. So she's like, okay. And Oz is like, you're going to leave. So it was more of this. He doesn't feel safe with Allie, but he feels safe with Ivy. So Allie, she's feeling bad. She said, I'll go. She's like, are you sure? She's like, oh, just take me like an hour. I'm gonna go down. The alarm is old and that's all. It just untripped. I'll go down and I'll do it. I'll take care of it. Well, she goes down there, and of course we all know something's going to happen when she gets down there. She gets down there. She gets down there. She untrips the alarm. She's coming through. And the next thing you know, there's something moving. She hears some scuffling back there where the meat's at. So back there in the back, the meat's hanging off the wall and all that. And she sees like a puddle of blood, and she looks up, and here it is, the head chef. Somebody done him in, honey, and done hung him up on a thing. And he was actually still living, but she couldn't get him down fast enough, and he choked on his own blood and all that, and then it spit blood all over. It was a whole bloody, nasty mess. Of course, this had gone back, once the cops came and all that, they were trying to pin it on Pedro. And Pedro was like, I didn't do this. And Allie had gotten really bent out of shape about it. She was like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to sit here. I know Pedro didn't do this, and I'm not going to pin this on the usual suspect. I'm not going to do that and all that. So that happened. Everything was done. Of course, they questioned Pedro and all that, and he had talked to Abby later, a couple of days after. He was like, it was terrible. He said, the cops came to my house. They scared my daughter to death. He's like, I am not an illegal immigrant. I was born here in the United States, everything like that. He's like, it's ridiculous. And he said to her, it's very scary being a brown person nowadays. I said, So we had all that going on. So the one day after that daggone Ivy that slipped in and brought the therapist to the house to see Allie. Allie got a little pissed off. This was about a week after everything had happened. And she was on edge, but she's looking. She's like, you want a cup of tea? She's like, I can't believe you did this. And it wasn't real discreet, but that's cool, whatever. So they end up talking. It's like, no, I ain't taking the medicine. It makes me feel loopy and foggy and this, that, thing, and the other. He's like, well, I can't because you didn't come to your appointments either. She's like, whatever. So she's just really not feeling it. And at the time, they're literally having all the windows like bolted shut. Like she's in this funk. She's having these windows bolted shut. And I'm going to talk to y'all about that in a minute. Just hold on with that. Just because of some stupidness. But she goes through all that. And then she tells him how she basically has gotten a gun from the neighbor. The one that's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. He done went and told her all about, he been buying guns ever since when Obama was in office. Because, he going to take that, he was going to try to take that Second Amendment right out of there. So he had all these guns. I mean, all kind of guns. I said, Lord have mercy. I said, okay. So she had gotten a gun from him. And she swore the therapist to secrecy. She said, you're not allowed to tell Ivy, and you better not tell her. And he was really strange with Ivy, but she knew something's wrong, but he didn't tell her exactly what was going on. So later on, I think it may have been the next day, she gets this knock at the door. It was like weird. It was like out of nowhere in the middle of the day. She goes, grabs a knife, goes to the door. She got all this, by the time they got bars and stuff up. And here is Kai at the door. Kai's running for city council. But he gets talking to her, and she's like, I know who you are. You're that asshole from on TV. This, that, and the other. He's talking his talk to her and going on and really talking his talk, his old talk. And then he's being all scary, yanking and grabbing on the thing and telling her, you're scared and this, that, and the other, and you need to come to my way of thinking. This, I said, you giving me Charles Manson tease right now. I said, a mess. So she told me, you need to get away from here. You need to get away from here and go on. So he goes on off about his business. He's going to say, how are you going to feel when they come for you? Talking about the immigrants. I said, and I thought about it, and I said, that's going to come back up again. Sure enough, Just hold on. Okay, so she's going through all that. She gets rid of him. Later on that night, she's sitting up there. She's looking at this medicine, and she ain't taking the medicine. It's a night that Ivy's working. Allie's there at the house, and that's what she said. We're going to have Winter come and hang out with you and Oz, since Oz doesn't really feel safe with Allie. So Oz tells Winter that he's still asleep. He's still scared. He says, I don't know whether I'm asleep sometimes or if I'm dreaming. If I'm dreaming or if I'm awake. She said, well, he said, how am I supposed to know? She said, just ask. So sure enough, later on that night, one of them clowns was up in the house, baby, walking by in his room, and he looked at the clown and say, am I awake? And he gonna say, no, you're dreaming. And he just gonna lay on back down. I said, okay, then that was kind of corny. I was like, yeah, that was real corny. I wasn't feeling that. But anyway, at the same time, Winter has taken her time. She's seeing what's going on with Allie. And she basically has worked into a position where she started to seduce Allie. She got Allie down in the tub. She didn't convince her to take a bath. She down there, she's washing her back and stuff. And Allie was trying to, move her out and get her away from her. But then, honey, she didn't fell for it, baby. And the next thing you know, she's like washing her back and stuff. And next thing I know, honey, she done reached her hand down the water, baby. She fiddling her twiddle, honey. And she kind of stopped her and she gonna say, I won't tell your wife. It'll be between you and I. And she said, and doesn't it feel good? They gonna tell her, she said, and I won't tell her that you ain't taking your medicine. I said, oh, mess. Next thing you know, honey, the light shut off. So it's like a blackout in their whole block or whatever. There's this blackout. So they're running around in the house trying to get candles and stuff lit. Winter's like, oh, yeah, Oz is fine. He's up there. He's still asleep. This, that, and the other. So then the next thing you know, they're like closing the windows and stuff. Now, remember, they just barred. This is what I was saying. They barred up all these windows and stuff. And they're closing the window. Why weren't the windows on? You're so scared that you got them bolted shut, but you got the windows open. So you got like bars and stuff on the window bolted, but you got the window open. Why? If you're so scared, just close it up and go on about your business. Anyways, I was like, oh, God, strange. So the daggone neighbor come running over there. Child, here he go with his conspiracy theorist mess. So I don't know if it's the Russians or if it's carrying on. He was carrying on. And she done got all up in that mindset. Ends up, Winter's like, oh my God, I gotta go. She's like, no, Winter, you can't go out there. You heard what he said. You can't leave. You can't leave us here by ourselves, this, that, and the other. Honey, and Winter told her, she said, sometimes it's not about you. Honey, and she was like, I gotta go. She left. She ended up leaving. So at this point, Goofball gets all unglued, calls Ivy. Ivy's like, girl, here we go with you in this bullshit again. So she's like, okay. And the next thing you know, she was kind of cold to her, but then the phone went dead. So at that point, she said, oh my God, was I too cold? Was I too evil? She tells Pedro, she said, you know what? Take this charger over there to the house to her, and here, take this stuff. So she started packing like some candles and different things like that for her. Told Pedro, take all this stuff over to the house for her, for me. He's like, okay, no problem. So at this point, she's still trying to close up all the windows and stuff, and then she ends up going, and she's like messing with the security. She's like, what's wrong with this the backup generator? So she goes, they have like the way they have these steps, and they have like their circuit breaker is right under the steps. And there's like a little closet there. She kind of opens up the little closet, and she goes and she sees that the circuit breaker is not working. The wires are yanked. And she's like, oh my God. And she has a candle. Well, baby, when she turns around, there's a clown standing right there. And then he says, ooh, and blows the candle out. Child about made her lose her damn shit right there in the little closet. And she's like, oh my God, oh my God. So then she gets out of there. And she gets to the bottom of the steps. There's this other clown standing at the top of the steps. And, it's the only thing that's going to make her face her fear is there's this clown in between her and Ozzy. And she like, you know what, baby, it's going to be me or you. She goes up the steps, baby. She went running up the steps like she's on a football field, baby, and flipped the clown over the banister. She gave it to her mommy style, baby. I said, okay, I know that's right. Flipped her over there. She runs upstairs. Remember, she got a gun. She gets her gun. When she comes back, clown's gone. She's gone. She goes, she gets Ozzy out the bed, tells him, put your glasses, because you know he's blind. Put your glasses on. She told him, come on. Don't say nothing to me. Just come on. So they run down. They go to the back door. She says, listen. She said, now, when I go out of this door, I want you to hold my hand. We're going to run to the neighbor's house. I want you to hold my hand and don't let go of my hand. Because he's like, you got that gun. I'm scared. She said, just shut up. So, child, she opens the door. And, baby, before you know, there's a Pedro is at the door and startles her. And she just opens fire and she killed Pedro. And that's where it ended. I was like, oh my God, this is a mess. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I was like, all right. It was decent. It kept moving, but I got questions. We got to go. Something else is going to have to happen because we how many weeks are we going to be able to really play this clown hallucination game? Because I felt like we were reaching a little bit this week. Last week we were cool. We were being eased into it. This week it was like a whole episode of it. I felt like we were getting to a point where we're starting to reach. Like I can't see a third week of this again. It's going to have to move into something else. But whatever. Come on, Ryan Murphy. We'll see what you're going to do. What you're going to do. All right. So that's it. I will see you guys next week. Later.